Okay, so the next question talks about compressors, whether or not to use a compressor pedal and what they do, what they're for. So compression is something that I've learned a lot about as I've gotten into recording. It's a really, really powerful and useful tool whenever you are going to record. What it does is it takes your dynamic range and it squishes it down. So your loud or your high is not going to be quite as high, and your low, your soft, isn't going to be quite as low. So if you're playing your guitar part throughout a song, think of it like on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being the softest note that you play in the whole song, and 10 being the loudest. What a compressor will do is it will take your 10 and squish it down so that it's an 8. So everything that is 9 or 10 will get pushed down to be only at the volume of an 8. And then everything, so that will bring down the top end. And then typically what has happened is that it will boost the entire remaining signal. So you have what was a 1 through 8 that gets boosted up to be a 3 through 10. So in effect, it has brought down both the top and the low, and then, well, it brought down the top and then it boosted up the whole thing, which effectively raises the low. So your dynamic range, instead of being 10 units of whatever apart, it's now only 8. That's just an example. You can have heavy compression that does even more. And so let's talk about it for application. I don't use a compressor pedal with my guitar rig. But that's not to say I don't use any compression. I just don't get it from a compressor pedal. I usually get my compression, number one, if I'm using the Axe-Fx, I will put some compression into the amp block. The Axe-Fx basically has a compressor that they put into every amp in the power section. So the output section of every amp, where the EL84s or the EL34s or 6V6s or whatever in your amp would be, they put in a compression circuit. And I will bump up that just a little bit. I found that some compression in the amp block is really nice because also, if you are running an amp that is relatively pushed, like a Marshall, and you're running it at 6 or 7, that will naturally compress the signal. And so you kind of are relying on the amp to naturally compress itself, and by placing your compression in that area, in the power section of the amp, it creates some really desirable effects into my ear. And so you can, roll your volume back and still get a nice clean sound, but you don't disappear completely. You can roll it all the way up and really attack, and it will squish and give you that nice sag. It just is a really nice way to do it. Now, also, if I'm recording, I will use primarily compression in the DAW in Reaper itself. Reaper's compressor is very good. It has a lot of really good stuff. So that's primarily where I use compression, but I don't like to get it from a specific pedal, if that